Hello everyone, Andrew here, and today I have another pickup video for everyone. I know that people really like pickup videos, and I know that people want to see more pickup videos from me, so I figured I picked up some pretty cool stuff recently, so I thought everyone might be interested in seeing it. So this is some things I've picked up over the last couple of weeks, and last weekend I actually went downtown Toronto and hit up a whole bunch of video game stores, and I found some really good deals on some things, so I grabbed a whole bunch of stuff, and you'll be seeing that in this video too. It ranges all the way back to something for the NES, and ranges to things as new as PlayStation 2 and Gamecube. So nothing from like the last generation. I mean, I guess now I guess we have to call PS3, 360, and Wii last generation now, which is still so weird. It'll probably feel a lot better once PlayStation and Microsoft get their new consoles out. But to think that they're not current gen anymore it's just so bizarre. So hopefully they get their consoles out soon, and it will feel a little less weird since there's like 3 recent ones now. But anyway, without further ado, let's jump right in, although I'm trying to decide where I want to start. Because like I said, we have some PS2 stuff, we have some Game Boy Advance stuff, we have NES, PlayStation. The majority of the things are PlayStation 2, so I'll probably kind of do them somewhere in the middle. And we will start with NES. I got one NES thing, and it's actually not a new game. I mean, it's something I didn't have in my collection, but the game itself is not new. And that's because it is a game that is complete in the box that I never had before. And I usually don't go out of my way, like, unless it's at a thrift store or something, to buy a boxed game. But in this case, I had to do it because I've only ever seen it in the box once before, and someone wanted $100 for it. So in this case, I paid less than half for that, and you'll understand why I really had to get it. And that is because it is Zoda's Revenge Star Tropics 2 for the NES, the sequel to my #1 favorite NES game of all time, complete in the box, and it is in absolutely awesome shape. Some of the corners have a little bit of a scuff, but overall, just the edges of the box are really nice. It still has a nice shine to it. Very good overall. Sometimes you see this part right here has a bend in it because of the way that people open it. That's in perfect shape. And it's all in there too. It has the manual, which is awesome. The cartridge is in mint shape. It even has the styrofoam in the bottom. It came with a dust sleeve, even though I have tons of extra ones. But still, very cool. And like you hardly ever see this box anywhere, because Zoda's Revenge was actually the second last official NES game ever released, with Wario Woods being the last one. So it's definitely not easy to come by this. It was released in 1994, so yeah, complete in the box. I definitely had to grab it. I've always wanted it in the box, but like I said, the only other time I've ever seen it was $100, and I paid less than half of that to get this, so I was very happy to finally get this and be able to add it to my collection, which is very cool. I've actually started hanging some NES games from the ceiling, some of my favorite ones and rarer ones, so I'll definitely have to show off some of the things I have hanging from the ceiling someday. I know I showed off the ceiling a bit in my big room tour, but it changes every now and then, so I'll give an update on that sometime. So yeah, there we go, Zoda's Revenge. I'm so happy about that. That is so cool. Let's see what else we have here. Next up, we have a Dreamcast game, Chicken Run. Pretty funny movie. One of the really earlier animated movies, released in 2000. It is super complete. Has like the advertisement, has the manual. The disc doesn't have a single scratch on it, and like hardly any dust. And overall, very good shape. So I picked that up for the Dreamcast. It's not too often I pick up Dreamcast games. Actually, I probably have about almost 100 Dreamcast games, which I know there's a lot more than that. But still, you don't come by Dreamcast games super often. So I picked that one up when I saw it. Here I have some Gamecube games. We have Vex for the Gamecube. I actually, for some reason, way back when I first started collecting, I was mainly only collecting older things like NES and Super NES. I wasn't really too into Gamecube, so I remember I saw this at the garage sale for like $2, and for some reason I didn't grab it. I mean, this is way back when I started collecting. So finally, I'm able to add it to my collection. Next up is Defender, and I should note, I believe all of these games, yeah, they all have manuals and the discs are all in very nice shape too. That one's complete. And the next one is Pac-Man Versus and Pac-Man World 2. This is actually a double discer, as each of them is on a separate disc, which, I mean, wow, like they must have to be really big games if they couldn't just kind of put them both on the one disc. I mean, Pac-Man World 2 is probably a pretty decently sized game, but Pac-Man Versus, I don't know if it is or not. Interestingly enough, you actually do need to connect your Game Boy Advance, to the GameCube. Through that kind of connector cord if you want to play Pac-Man Versus, I think. I think that's what it's trying to say on the back here. But anyway, that's interesting, and it should be pretty fun to try out. It is the Player's Choice version, although I've never really been that reluctant to buy Player's Choice games. I know some people, other collectors, if it says Player's Choice or Greatest Hits, they won't buy it because it's like, you know, it came out later, second edition, worth less, although my main focus is just to get the games. I mean, of course, as a collector, I do care. It's obviously better to have the first release, but I will not resist to buy something that says Player's Choice if it's a good deal or if it's a game I want. And then if I ever find just like the regular version of it later, I'll just swap it out and then either trade or sell the second release of it. But anyway, I thought that was pretty cool. And then also right here, I have Bomberman World for the original PlayStation. You can always see the reflection there of the TV, how long we've been recording. Yeah, so there's Bomberman World. This one is also in super awesome shape. The disc is in perfect condition, and everything was just so cool. So I definitely had to pick this one up. Unfortunately, it's not like the Saturn game. I don't think it was called Bomberman World on the Saturn, but you can't connect to different PlayStations and play that way. Although it does support up to 5 players, which is pretty cool. So I grabbed that, as I thought it was pretty neat. See, moving on. Next thing I grab here is the Sega Genesis Team Player. Lets you plug in up to 4 controllers. This thing, it's like brand new in the box. I mean, the edges are just so fine. Again, another box that's in very nice shape, so I had to grab it just because it was so cool and complete. And it's pretty much brand new. There's like not like a mark on it, except maybe like one mark up there. There's a bit of a mark up there, but still, very cool shape, and it's almost like new. So I definitely grabbed that, and everything's in the box. It's like a brick, just super complete in there. So I thought that was really neat. Next thing up, this is really, really cool. I definitely had to grab this when I saw it. I've seen it loose before without the battery cover. That's one thing about Game Boy Advances. I don't know if it's like this everywhere in the world, but whenever I find the Game Boy Advance at the thrift store, it's always missing the battery cover. The screen is scratched to pieces. But in this case, it wasn't, so I definitely had to grab it. And that is the Toys R Us exclusive version of the blue Game Boy Advance. And I just thought it was so cool to come across this complete in the box. One of the sides hasn't even been opened. It still has that kind of circle seal on it. This side has been opened, and everything is in there. All the books, all the manuals, and the Game Boy is in pretty much mint condition. I mean, it is really awesome. As long as we don't break it on the way out, if it gets hooked on something. There we go. But I mean, I don't know how well this will show up on camera. I really don't want to accidentally drop it. But I mean, as you can see, the battery cover's there. None of the stickers have any kind of damage, so I was so happy about that. Everything's really nice there. And the screen on the front doesn't have a scratch on it, which is so rare for Game Boy Advance games, considering they're almost always beat up whenever I find them. So I was so happy to grab this. Complete in the box. I'd never even seen the box for it before. Like I said, I saw this. It was like loose and beat up, and it was like 20 bucks once. So I didn't grab it in that shape. I don't know exactly if it was worth 20 bucks in that kind of shape. I'm not entirely sure what they go for. But still, I definitely had to grab this complete in the box, especially since it's a Toys R Us exclusive. And things that are exclusive at Toys R Us usually seem to become worth quite a bit. I think the gold Nintendo 64 was a Toys R Us exclusive, and I know that thing goes for a pretty massive amount, although it's also gold, and I mean, anything that's gold is of course going to be worth a ton if it's a limited edition. Next thing, also Game Boy Advance related, is a pack of e-reader cards. This is the pack that you got, like, kind of bundled with the e-reader. It has 5 cards in it, some of which I showed in my e-reader video. I grabbed this because it's not even open, and I thought it was really cool to have the sealed pack. Back when I got my e-reader, I wasn't really too into collecting. I mean, I played a lot of video games, and I never, like, traded in my games or anything. I've never traded in my games. Even before, like, I really got into collecting, I've never been one to want to get rid of my games. Like, if I was kind of done playing it, I would never trade it into EB Games. I'd always collect it. But anyway, yeah, this pack has never been open, and I mean, I kind of threw out, like, my actual packaging when I took the cards out, so I thought a never open pack of e-reader cards, probably not the easiest thing to come by, so I picked that up. And 2 more things for Game Boy Advance. Lately, I've been playing a ton of Mega Man Battle Network, like all the games. I 100% did Mega Man Battle Network 1, got all the chips in Mega Man Battle Network 2 a couple days ago, and now I'm working on getting all of the Mega chips in Battle Network 3, because I already have all the standard chips. So I picked up the Japanese version of Mega Man Battle Network 1, and the Japanese version of Mega Man Battle Network 5, Proto Man version. And yeah, adding those to my collection. Mega Man Battle Network's always been one of my favorite series, so, I mean, I usually do like to grab, like international versions of games that I really, really like. So I thought that was pretty cool. So I picked those two up. And those two were actually from a place called ANC Games downtown Toronto. They have a ton of stuff, and they're really cool. I mean, they have tons of games from, like tons of Japanese games, tons of North American games, too. So, it's usually one of those places that I go if there's something I'm really looking for. Or sometimes I'll just go there and I'll find something like this, which I wasn't necessarily expecting to find. My sister was actually looking for a North American version of the first one, but since I was looking through the Game Boy Advance games, I came across the Japanese version and just said I had to pick it up. So I thought that was a really, really cool thing to come across. Okay. Now it looks like we're into the PlayStation 2 zone. Not too long ago, I kind of had a goal. I kind of wanted to set up a PlayStation 2 kind of wall of games. And I'm going to get that set up soon. So I figured that with these games, I'd probably be kind of good to start working on that. I picked up some games for that range between 99 cents and $1.99 at one store, which was really cool. And then some other ones I've picked up at a whole bunch of different places, thrift stores and stuff like that. So let's start with some of the $1 and $2 ones. There's a few sports ones in here, but of course, I mean, PlayStation 2, it had quite a few sports games, although it had a lot of really other good games too, and that's why I know PlayStation 2 is not super old, and I never really used to focus on it, but PlayStation 2 does have a lot of really cool games, so even though there is a lot of sports to rummage through, even though like almost every console is like that, it does have a lot of really good redeeming games too, which make it a lot of fun to collect for. So the first game right here is Head Coach, and as it says on the end, I only paid 99 cents for this, and many of the other games in this stack. Although the really funny thing about this one, actually, I want to focus in on it, is that initially, you know, like he's a coach, he looks really angry and stuff like that, but I don't know if it's going to show up on camera, but if you look really like, it's like look into his eyes, it's almost like there's a kind of sadness there. I thought it was kind of really funny after I initially looked at it. He's like so angry, and then you look at his eyes, it looks like he's about to like start crying or something like that. I don't know. I thought that was kind of funny. Anyway, Head Coach, definitely going to play this all day long, and you can even like go into the boardroom and talk about how terrible your players are. Sounds like Game of the Year of whatever year it was. It doesn't even have a year. I mean, an EA sports game that doesn't have a year at the end of it. That has to be like, that's never happened before. Next up, we have NCAA 07 March Madness, still sealed, and this goes to show just how well sports games retain their value. Brand new for $1.99. I mean, sports games, the best investment you could ever make ever when you buy them new. Next up, Backyard Football. Actually, the sports game not made by EA. It was actually made by Atari. Pets, Dogs 2. Is it INA or TNA? I'm pretty sure it's supposed to be T. Although, as you can see, these, right here, the kind of line isn't connected to the line above it. So, I'm guessing it's probably supposed to be TNA Impact. Something to do with boxing or wrestling or some sort of fighting. Oh, it says wrestling right in the front. Not something I really keep up with. Right here, we have Guitar Hero, Aerosmith. And man, this one feels really heavy. This one's like super complete. Has a manual, and even underneath the manual, it's like another massive book, too. Not entirely sure what's in there. I'll have to check that out. But either way, a lot of these games are in very, very nice shape and are complete. Next up, we have Neopets, the Darkest Fairy. Is that the way to pronounce that? I've seen that like word once before, and I just assumed that it was fairy. I'm guessing what it's supposed to be. But yeah, it's Neopets. You know, it's the game that a lot of people, when they first got their computers, signed up and played for a week and then kind of completely forgot about it. And yeah, Neopets. I was one of the people who did that and then kind of just never logged in again. Madden 2001, the very first Madden game for the PS2, I believe. 2001, I believe, was the first year for that. So that's kind of cool. Extermination. I got a 3-evening new release video game rental on this. No, who remembers when Blockbuster actually used to exist? No, they've all gone broke here now. But anyway, I might be able to get that sticker off, or I might just not worry about it. Either way, Extermination for the PS2. Looks like some kind of horror, first-person shooting something kind of game Interesting. Here we have MX World Tour featuring Jamie Little. I know nothing about MX biking and stuff like that. Moving on, we have Rock Band Country Pack. Oh yeah. Who remembers when people used to play Rock Band? Now you can listen to all your favorite country songs by people I've never heard of. Next up, we have NFL Gameday 2001, another sports game from 2001. We have NBA Live 2004. And we have the Haunted Mansion. I actually have this for GameCube and Xbox, so I guess now I have it for every console it was released on. Unless it was like a dumbed down version for Game Boy Advance or something like that. But anyway, the Haunted Mansion. I actually don't think it's too bad of a game, to be honest. I think I've seen someone play it before. It's not the best game ever, but it looks pretty decent actually. There we go, that's it for that one stack I got at that one store. And now, we are going to move on, if I can lift it here. Actually, I have no idea where I'm going to put this. The second stack of PlayStation 2 games, and actually, that was almost very bad. See, if I move this over to here, and put these ones... One moment while I rearrange everything on the couch. You know you have bought too many PlayStation 2 games win. There we go. Alright, moving on with more PlayStation 2 stuff. We have a 3-game Resident Evil box set. Resident Evil The Essentials. This is really cool, and that's one thing I really like about PlayStation 2, is there were a lot of these kind of 3-game box sets. And if we open this up, we kind of get this other really cool box inside that one, and we have all 3 games here, which are super complete. And even inside here are the French books. I don't know, people in the US might not know, but in Canada sometimes when you buy a game, it will come with a French book that's kind of just plastic wrapped around the case, so it actually doesn't fit inside the case because it's a bit too wide. It's kind of really bizarre. Like, here's one of the French books right here, and as you can see, it's pretty much the actual size of the game, because usually when you buy it, it will kind of just be like sealed with the game and be stuck on the back. So these don't actually fit inside the case, but luckily someone actually took care of the French version of the manual, and they were all with it when I bought it, which was really cool. Not something I expected. So yeah, all of the games were in super nice shape, and like I said, I really like these sets. I have like a Naruto one, Devil May Cry, Pac-Man World, so overall I really like these sets, and they always look nice when they're on the shelf with kind of that big box on the side. Let's see, where can I put these ones? I'll just put that there for now. Alright, next in the other stack of PS2 games, we have Crash Nitro Kart. I have Tag Team Racing, which definitely wasn't the ripoff of Double Dash, although I did not have this one for PS2, so I had to pick that up. Next up, we have Jet Li Rise to Honor. Not sure exactly how this one works. Looks like a beat 'em up or something like that. Interesting. Minority Report. Everybody Runs. From what? I'm not entirely sure. Was this based on a movie? Actually, it might have been. Actually, it very much might have been. Although I've never seen the movie, so I have no idea. My favorite game of all, I mean, if you thought I liked Star Tropics, don't get me started about High School Musical singing. I mean, I play this thing all day and night. It's just so terrible. Next up is The Getaway, Black Monday. Tie 3, The Tasmanian Tiger, Night of the Quicken. I've actually never played a tie game. It's one of those series that was on the PlayStation 2. Actually, it might have been on the GameCube and Xbox as well. I'm not entirely sure. Either way, it's a series I never really got into, although it did have 3 games, so maybe, considering it went on for quite a while, maybe it was actually pretty good, and I should check it out at some point. Anyway, next up, we have Whiplash. Not entirely sure what this one is about. Busted Up, apparently. Something like that. Next up, Wave Rally 64. No, Wave Rally for the PS2. Ford Racing number 3. Spider-Man 2. The Dukes of Hazzard. Return of General Lee. These two were also 99 cents, and I kind of bought them by accident, actually, these 3. And it was because I didn't know which years of NHL 2K I had. And that's one of the main things I really hate about sports games is there's so many PlayStation 2 games that, unlike NES and Super NES, I don't actually have a list because it would take like 5 billion pieces of paper. I think I have every single year of EA's NHL games, but I did not know which years I had of 2K, so I kind of just picked up all of these, and I think one of them might have ended up being new, but either way, I had 99 cents a piece, so they'll make good Frisbees or something like that. But yeah, overall, I just hate how every single company had to have their own version of every sport, and it makes it so hard to remember which ones I have. Because otherwise, I'm really good at remembering which like games I have, as long as it's like there wasn't a release of it every year, which makes things really confusing. We have Drag Racing 2. We have Outlaw Tennis. And kind of last but not least, and you'll see why it's kind of, we have the Scorpion King for the PS2. I believe this one was probably based on a movie, and there's apparently a free Scorpion King skateboard sticker inside. Is that still true? Doesn't appear to be so. Oh well, I don't skateboard anyway. Although I guess it still would have been cool for completeness maybe. So yeah, that is the majority of what I got over the past little while. The other thing that I got is this crazy golfing thing. We kind of have this sensor, and then you get this golf club, and then there's this crazy PlayStation 2 golf game that you can play. And if we look inside this box here, the golf game is actually in there, and there's also a styrofoam thing, which has the golf club in it. And you use it in combination with that, and I guess it's kind of like before Wii Sports, you could play golf in your living room, which is kind of interesting. So I paid $5 for each of these boxes. I mean, it's something I had never seen before, so I paid $5 for this sensor, and I paid $5 for this one, which came with the game and the club. And then later on in the day in Toronto, I came across this. It actually came as part of a set. So it's really funny. I'd never seen this golf thing before. And then in the same day, I find it twice, except the second time, it kind of comes in this, like this set. It had like a whole sleeve that went over it. So I ended up buying this one because, so I can kind of mix them together, because one of the things in this one was more complete than one of those ones. So I'm going to kind of combine the two, make a really good one, and then keep like the sleeve, and then maybe do something else with the other ones. Because as you can see, there's kind of a random white box in the top. Although if you look in the top, then you can see that the exact same boxes that I had there came in this thing. So it was just, I just thought it was really funny that something I'd never seen before, and then the same day I find the same thing at 2 different stores, which I thought was really funny. So yeah, that had this and this in it. So I'll have to figure out what I'm going to do with those, and maybe do something with the doubles. I mean, I bet everyone just can't wait to get their hands on Real World Golf Simulator. But yeah, I think that is everything that I have picked up in the last little while. A lot of PlayStation 2 games I know, but like I said, there are a lot of good PlayStation 2 games out there too, amongst all the sports stuff. So that's why I do find it cool to kind of collect for PlayStation 2, and luckily the sports games are like 99 cents, so even just trying to get them, it's not usually like too much of a pain. I know there's a lot of PlayStation 2 games, and I never really expect to get every single one, but if I could get a decent PlayStation 2 collection with a lot of like the good games, that would be really cool. And I'd really, really like that. And like I said, I'm kind of working on like a project where I'm going to put up a whole bunch of my PlayStation 2 games, and I'll show that when it is at an acceptable state. But yeah, I believe that that is all for this video. I really hope that everyone enjoyed seeing the things that I've gotten recently, especially Zoda's Revenge Star Tropics 2. I hope that you enjoyed, and I hope to see you next time for something different. So thanks, and see you later.